I was driving home late that afternoon when I noticed the unfamiliar car in our driveway. I slowed the engine, heart nodding, but told myself it must belong to a visitor or neighbor. Spring breeze drifted in through the cracked window, carrying the scent of wisteria from our garden, a smell I once found comforting. But something didn't feel right. I pushed open the front door. The wood creaked. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. I paused, hearing raised voices ahead, the tone icy, sharp. I recognized one voice, the voice of Sable, my sister-in-law. My pulse hammered. I stepped into the living room and froze mid-footstep when she turned sharply toward me, her lips curled. "You don't belong here," she said. The words hit like a blow. I tried to steady my voice. "What are you talking about?" I asked, stepping forward. Marcy advanced. "You've stayed long enough, soaking up what should have been ours. I've warned you." Her eyes held no apology, only calculation. Trying to reason, I said, "This is my home too. I built part of it. I belong." She smiled in a way that froze warmth in my chest. Then came the shove, hard. My shoulder slammed into the sliding glass door. Glass shattered. Pain, sharp, electric, clawed through my arm. I screamed more in disbelief than agony as shards bit into skin. My belongings scattered. Papers, frames, little keepsakes I cherished. The room blurred. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Someone gasped, but no one came forward. Marcy stood back, expression cold. No fear, no hesitation. Only ownership. In that moment, I realized she wasn't just pushing me out of my space. She was trying to erase me from it entirely. I lay on the bare floor, bleeding, stunned. My legs weak, mind reeling. A memory flickered. A time when I brought her a coffee on a Saturday morning, listened to her doubts. I'd given so much, expected so little. I felt an almost absurd guilt. Did I ignore signs? Did I accommodate too much? I looked down at my reflection in shattered glass shards, fractured, broken, yet alive, and something stirred in me. Anger, resolve. I whispered, "No more silence." I pushed myself upright, vision blurry, but spine straightening. Holding my arm, blood staining my sleeve, I stared at Marcy, my jaw set. Pain surged, but deeper was betrayal burning. If she thinks this is over, she's not ready for what's coming. Linda's kitchen smelled like lemon disinfectant and strong coffee. I sat at the table, a dish towel wrapped around my arm, now cleaned and stitched from urgent care. She didn't ask too many questions, which I appreciated. My body ached, but what stung more wasn't the pain. It was the humiliation. The way Sable had looked down at me, like I was already gone, like I didn't matter. Linda placed a mug in front of me. I didn't touch it. My mind kept circling one truth. That house wasn't just a roof. It was the last piece of my mother, the last real thing I hadn't already lost. I built my life in those walls. That hallway still had the scratch I made with my high heels when I first danced alone after getting promoted. My phone buzzed again. Another message, then another, all from relatives, none kind. I scrolled through them. "You made this ugly. Just give her what's hers. Stop making drama." I put the phone face down, took a breath, and reminded myself, reacting emotionally was how they'd win. Maya Angelou's voice came back to me. "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." I'd ignored every warning sign, never again. Later that night, back at Linda's guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open, memory sharp. That envelope Sable had waved, she flashed it too confidently. A legal-looking document, maybe a deed, or something she thought would scare me. I pulled up my digital files. Mom had scanned everything, mortgage papers, will, even old letters. I dug through them like a woman on a mission. Click after click, folder after folder. My hands trembled. Then I found it. Our original property deed, signed by my mother. Clear, with my name on it. But something was off. The date didn't match what Sable had shown. Her copy, the one she flaunted, had a later date. And one clause I didn't recognize. I cross-checked. The wording wasn't the same. Hers had something about transferable rights in case of family disputes. Ours didn't. If she's bold enough to shove me through glass, I muttered, what else is she bold enough to forge? I leaned back, exhausted, but sharper than I'd been in days. That's when I noticed the folder marked Voicemail Backup, Mom. It was buried beneath work receipts. I clicked it without expecting much. Her voice filled the room. It was an old voice memo. She sounded tired, maybe sick, but determined. Sweetheart, if you're hearing this, it means I didn't get to explain it in person. Keep the house in your name. No matter what happens, they'll try to twist things. Don't let them. I'm counting on you. I froze. Every syllable hit like a thunderclap. My throat tightened. She knew. She knew something was coming, and she left me this. I played it again. Slower this time. She didn't name anyone, but she knew. That was all I needed. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't me being dramatic. This was real. I stood and grabbed a notepad. I began scribbling. Dates, names, arguments, small details that seemed useless until now. My brain was turning, calculating, connecting. Then I called Rachel. We weren't close friends, but she was the kind of lawyer who handled things quietly. I need to ask you something off the record, I said. I explained the forgery, the voicemail, the discrepancies. Send me what you have, she said. If what you're saying holds up, you've got a real case. But don't go waving it around yet. Be smart. I was tempted to post the voicemail, blast it on social media. Let everyone see the truth. But I didn't. Never let them see you panic. That's how they win. I closed my laptop, hand still resting on the lid, when a new email notification popped up. No sender name. Just the subject line. You're not safe in your own home. I clicked it. Inside was a photo, blurry, grainy, clearly taken from inside the house. It was me. Standing in the kitchen that morning, I stared at it, breath caught. That picture was taken before Sable arrived, which meant someone had been in my house long before the shove. Watching, I lay awake for hours, haunted by the image in that photo, me standing in my own kitchen. My apartment was quiet, but everywhere felt watched. I replayed the image, studied the angle. It wasn't taken from outside. Someone had to be inside the house. The thought gnawed at me. I felt exposed, like my walls had ears. I remembered a quote, "Sunlight is the best disinfectant," and I promised to flood every corner with truth. I dove into my digital life that night. I checked the headers of that anonymous email. The IP traced to somewhere in Austin, not random. My pulse swelled. I called Rachel again. She answered, sleep in her voice. I whispered, "It's bigger than I thought." She told me to be careful, that even smart homes can have ghost keys. I reviewed my smart lock logs, cameras I'd installed long ago. One had been disabled. The access code used was old, but someone had reused it. I listed everyone who ever had the code, past contractors, family, even my brother. My chest tightened when I realized betrayal might be closer than I wanted. Hours later, I stood before Renstone under cover of darkness, the front yard silent. I slipped my hidden spare key from the planter and let myself in, heart hammering. My flashlight flickered as I moved. I barely whispered. In the living room, perched overhead, was a camera shaped like a smoke detector. My breath caught. I raised my phone to record it. Evidence. Then I checked the Wi-Fi router logs. A device registered under my brother's account, connected at odd hours. The betrayal stung. He always acted neutral. Was he silent or complicit? My cheeks burned. I muted my voice. I snapped photos. I encrypted logs. I couldn't yet confront him. I moved to leave, every sense alert. Then, a soft creak upstairs. I froze. I backed toward the back door, steps silent. My phone buzzed. A message. "I know you're here." My blood turned cold. I parked down the street from Renstone, engine off, watching the dark house. The memory of glass shattering under me still felt raw, like it had lodged splinters beneath my skin. The night air was heavy. Every step back toward that house was a step into a battlefield. I slipped through the side gate instead of the main entrance. The front door was a stage for humiliation, and I wasn't giving her another scene. Inside, the air smelled different, like someone else had claimed it. Doors were cracked open that I'd always kept shut. My fingers brushed a dent on the wall near the kitchen. Once this place had been safety. Now it was a stranger. But I told myself, I'm not leaving again without answers. I moved quietly, opening drawers, checking corners. On a whim, I grabbed my phone and searched the address. The screen blinked, and there it was. A real estate listing. My house, the one I'd paid for, under another name, Crow. My name erased from the description like I'd never existed. Photos of my living room, my kitchen, my mother's old clock. I stared until my throat dried. They'd listed it behind my back. Piece by piece, they were wiping me out. I screenshotted everything. Agent info, dates, photos. My phone buzzed. An unfamiliar voice on the other end. Polite, cheerful. We're showing the property tomorrow morning. Are you the current occupant? I hung up before my voice could betray me. Footsteps behind me. I turned, my pulse hammering. She stood at the edge of the hallway, hair tied back, arms crossed. Not surprised to see me, annoyed. This house belongs to me now, she said, her tone clipped like a blade. You never belonged here. I showed her the screenshot, my hand steady. She smiled, pulled a folded document from her bag. You can screenshot whatever you want. This is the deed. Her paper, my life. A bluff is still a lie, I said, voice even. We circled each other with words. She accused me of freeloading. I told her I'd paid every bill, every tax. She laughed softly. Perception matters more than facts. People already think you're unstable. Her words slid off me like cold water, but I didn't flinch. Then Garrick stepped in, shoulders tense. His eyes darted between us. I didn't approve the listing, he said. His voice cracked. They told me you'd lost it, that you needed help. I stared at him. He was either a pawn or a partner. Don't hide behind him, I said to her. Every move here is yours. He looked down, ashamed, but didn't defend me. She tilted her head, smiling, control slipping at the edges. For the first time she looked unsettled, like the mirror of power had cracked. I folded the printout in my hand. The house was still dark except for a single lamp upstairs. As I turned toward the door, the lights flickered once, then steadied. A voice drifted down from above, not hers, not his. You shouldn't have come back. My body went rigid. I could hear the faint rasp of breathing from the attic, steady, deliberate. The paper shook in my hands. After hearing that whisper upstairs, I backed away quietly. No running, no thundering exit. I walked, slow, steady, every footfall deliberate. The house felt heavier with betrayal. I held my laptop and screenshots in one hand, keys in the other, heart pounding. I knew I had to leave now, on my terms. The door clicked shut behind me. Outside, night air was thin, almost cold. I exhaled a long, shaky breath. The weight of what I was carrying, evidence, lies, my dignity, weighed more than any physical load. I called Garrick from the car, voice controlled. We need to talk, I said. He hesitated. I didn't soften. I'm not asking, I'm telling. He pressed silence. I laid out the listing, the forged deed, the camera feed I captured. Not a word of emotion, only cold facts. Between us, years of brother, family, memories, but he couldn't remain neutral now. You have one chance to make this right. I won't warn again. He stuttered, unsure. I ended the call. I felt gravity settle in my chest. Later that day, I arrived at Aunt Valerie's house for what they called a family reconciliation. The living room was set with cookies, flowers, forced smiles. The air tasted false. Sable greeted me with faux warmth, like she owned affection. I sat across from a table full of faces, cousins, uncles, neighbors. Garrick next to her, eyes avoiding mine. Her opening words twisted my truth. We're worried about you, Delora. You've been acting so erratic. She painted me unstable. They suggested I take some time off for my mental health, as if illness explained conflict. My blood hummed. I held my recording device under my coat. I let them talk. Let me listen. When it was my turn, I spoke slowly, clearly. I quoted her. I played a clip of her bragging about rewriting the will. Silence fell. Relations shifted. I reminded them of values my mother taught: respect, integrity, legacy. I leaned forward. This is your final chance. Cross me again. I go public. My voice didn't crack, even though my throat burned. Some faces shifted. Some looked down. No one interrupted. As I left that living room, the neighborhood lights flickered. Her parting whisper slid across the hallway. You want war? I don't lose. I turned and saw her smile. A smile not afraid, but amused. My heart steadied. This was more than a fight over a house now. She was trying to erase me. I drove back to Wrenstone in the full glare of noon. The sun cut through the trees like knives, sharp shadows crisscrossing the driveway. My arms still ached from the stitches, but my hands didn't tremble anymore. The fear had drained out. What was left felt like a cold focus. On the seat beside me was the small drive. Footage, screenshots, metadata logs, all of it. Evidence, truth, my spine. I opened the door and walked in, past rooms that once held Sunday dinners and family laughter. The house was silent, only the creak of wood under my steps. For a second, I heard my mother's voice, soft but steady. You're one of us. I whispered back, we'll see who they see me as now. In the living room, sunlight hit the glass of the display cabinet. My jewelry box was gone. A framed photo sat where it once had been, inscription neat and proud. Gifted by Marcy to Garrick in memory of Mom. My throat burned. That box had been mine. Hours of handcraft, my project, my heart. Now rewritten like it was never mine at all. Marcy appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. You never signed it, she said. We just acknowledged it with love. I kept my tone even. Love doesn't override ownership. I took a photo of the frame, the inscription, the empty space where my box had been. Tiny lies, building like bricks. I moved toward the home office, a room I'd avoided for months. Papers were stacked neatly on the desk, deeds, wills, titles. My name appeared on some, scratched out on others. A folder marked Heirloom's names lay open. I flipped through. My name had been replaced by Crow Family Trust on document after document. For a second, my chest clenched as if the air thinned. They weren't just taking a house, they were writing me out of our history. I photographed each page, each signature. Every date went into my encrypted folder. No noise, no reaction, just action. Marcy stepped into the office, feigning surprise. You're breaking in again? She said. Her voice was silk, stretched over steel. You always wanted drama. I turned to face her, the documents on the desk between us. I came for the truth, not applause, I said. She tried to belittle me. You always needed attention. I stood firm, no tears, no apologies. You'll regret this, she said finally, voice dropping, smile thin. Maybe, I answered, but not today. As she left the room, I caught movement outside the window, a shadow in the garden, familiar but out of place. The garden lights flickered, though it was still daylight. My phone buzzed, a message flashing across the screen. You should have left when you had the chance. My breath hitched. I knew that silhouette. The circle of betrayal was larger than I'd thought. I walked back into Wrenstone after the last meeting, and the air felt different, like it had been stripped of warmth. The late afternoon sun was bleeding through the windows, but the light didn't carry any comfort. I moved through the hallway slowly. Walls once lined with family photos now stood bare. Empty nails left behind where my childhood smiled out from behind glass. The bookshelf near the front room, the one where my trophies used to sit, gone, cleared out. I reached toward the dust left behind, my fingers tracing what once was. I could still hear the echoes of laughter, of cousins running through the house, of my mother calling us in for dinner. I swallowed hard. This wasn't just neglect, it was intentional. Erasure. And I whispered to myself, not as a threat, but a promise. You won't wipe me out that easy. I found the small hallway closet tucked near the back, once my childhood hideout where I'd kept diaries, drawings, and birthday cards. I pulled open the door. Boxes stacked high, everything sealed in plastic. I didn't see anything familiar at first. Then I found a note on one of the boxes. Sent for preservation. Marcy. I unwrapped one of them. Inside were photo albums, but none of me. Instead, glossy prints of Marcy's family, her parents, her childhood, her side. I kept digging. My stomach turned. Every box held pieces of her story, carefully cataloged. Not mine. Mine were gone. I took out my phone, snapping photos of the boxes, the handwriting, the labels, documenting. I stepped back, shut the closet quietly, and whispered, "You erased my memory. I'll resurrect every bit of it." Voices floated in from the kitchen. A guest had arrived. Tom, one of Dad's old poker buddies. I stayed near the archway, out of view, listening. He laughed loud, then said, "Oh, look, Aunt Delora's back. Come to see how we live now?" He wasn't joking. He wanted them to laugh, and they did. Some did, not all. A few glanced down. I stepped in. Calm, measured. "I'm here to remind you whose home this was." The air thickened. Tom cleared his throat. No apology came. He muttered something about just teasing, but the message had landed. The others shuffled, unsure where to look. My eyes scanned their faces, some guilty, others flat, and I knew it wasn't just about the house anymore. They were building a story, one without me in it. I didn't defend. I didn't argue. I let the weight of my presence do the talking. No tears, no weakness, just resolve. Later, I made my way upstairs. The hallway lights had dimmed with the sun, casting long shadows across the wood floor. I stood in front of the door to what used to be my room. I hadn't opened it in years. I braced myself. Inside, it wasn't a room anymore, just a space filled with crates, tools, and random junk. The furniture was gone. No bed, no dresser, not even the wallpaper I'd helped Mom pick out when I was 12. Just white walls and cold boxes. I stepped in. The silence was louder than any argument. I walked across the floor, dragging my hand low, letting it skim the grain of the wood. I'd once danced here, cried here, dreamed here. Now it was a dumping ground. They hadn't just removed my belongings, they'd removed the idea of me. I knelt down, pulled a small object from my pocket, a brass button from Mom's sewing kit, something nobody else would recognize. I tucked it behind the baseboard near the window. Quiet and deliberate, not as a goodbye, as a marker, a claim. Then I stood, squared my shoulders, and walked out. As I stepped into the hallway, something stopped me. A sound. Faint. Soft. A melody. Humming. The tune my mother used to sing. When dishes clinked in the sink, when she folded laundry, when thunder rolled in, and we couldn't sleep, my feet froze. The light above flickered once, twice. A door creaked from somewhere upstairs. I didn't breathe. My pulse thudded heavy in my ears. Was it a memory playing tricks, or something else? I moved slowly, inching forward, toward that echo, toward whatever was waiting. The hall was quiet before dawn, but I felt its pulse. I arrived early, clutching my documents and the video drive, my lifeline. Chairs stood in neat rows, facing the podium. Press outlets had already set up cameras. Neighbors milled along the back walls, whispering. I paused at the entrance and looked around. Faces I once knew, some friendly, some distant. Today, they'd all be judges. I stepped forward, breathing deep, reminding myself why I came. I wasn't there to beg. I was there to speak truth. Truth doesn't fear the light, I told myself as I crossed the room and took my place. I began with a clear tone, recounting what had brought us here. The hidden surveillance, the forged documents, the erased identity. My slides showed timestamps, image analyses, connected evidence. The audience followed quietly, but just past the midpoint, the screen flickered. Words changed. Some sentences vanished, others were replaced with subtle insinuations, unstable, relative dispute, unverified claims. The message twisted, gasps reverberated. Behind me, I sensed movement. I turned and saw Marcy by the back entrance, arms folded, lips curved in a slow, pleased smile. My heart clenched. The betrayal wasn't subtle, it was public, broadcast in real time. I forced my voice steady. "Stop this! That slide is fraudulent." Camera flashes snapped. The hall froze. I walked forward and pulled the drive from my pocket, raising it before the crowd. "This is the unedited proof." I held it high. Then my attorney friend raised a pointer to the screen. A new email file appeared, one none expected. They projected it. A private message from father, years old, never sent, until now. The lines commanded attention. I read slowly. "I trust you with the legacy, not the one who envies it. This home belongs to you. Protect it when they try to steal more than walls." The room went still. Phones paused mid-tap. Marcy's face shifted. Her veneer cracked. "This was his voice, his intention," I said. "Not a rumor, not a whisper, but documentable truth." Murmurs rippled. Eyes flicked between the screen and her. My validation wasn't performed. It was revealed. Then the final evidence, the hidden camera footage. My ally cued it. The screen displayed the installation, Marcy's orders, her edits, her voice instructing others. No spin, no commentary, just fact. The audio clarity made hearts pound. The betrayal of lies laid bare. The hall watched, frozen. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The audience shifted. Some put hands over mouths. One neighbor stood, stunned. I didn't cheer. I whispered, "Truth always demands a witness." They filed out slowly, stunned. A few stopped to shake my hand. Some cried quietly. Press rushed toward the exit. I stayed put, holding the drive tight. Marcy crossed the floor. She stopped inches away, her face controlled, though her eyes trembled. She leaned in. Her voice was soft. "You think you've won? You'll regret this." I looked into her eyes and held mine steady. "I'm not here to win," I said. "I'm here to finish it." She blinked and turned away. Outside, dawn broke fully, light flooding the windows. In that brightness, I felt the weight lift. The morning after the hearing felt different. The air was still, but not heavy. I stepped outside to find two neighbors on their morning walk pause, nod, and wave. A few days ago, they would have looked away. Now, people whispered my name, but not with pity. Marcy had become the town's cautionary tale. Online, the video spread like wildfire. Some folks reposted it with long captions about justice and betrayal. Others messaged me privately, some I hadn't spoken to in years. One woman from church admitted, "I thought you were losing it. I was wrong." Another said, "I should have asked you, not just believed her." That one stuck with me. The local paper ran a front-page story. A reckoning of truth. I cut it out, not out of pride, but so I'd remember what it cost to get here. My mailbox filled with letters, handwritten notes. Some short, "We believe you now." Others long, pouring out stories of similar silence. One line kept repeating in my head, "The truth may be slow, but it is relentless." It was. Later that week, I sat across from my attorney in a cramped legal office that smelled like old coffee and air freshener. He didn't waste time. "The footage changed everything. We're reopening probate, and there may be criminal charges coming her way." I didn't ask what kind. I didn't care. All I wanted was for my father's name and what he left behind to be seen for what it truly was. His gift, his intention. We filed the video and accompanying statements as formal evidence. A court date was set. That night, I parked outside the courthouse. I didn't go in. There was no need yet. I just sat there, rolled down the window. The breeze was cool. I pulled the sun visor down and found that old photo of my dad tucked behind it. Him, smiling, holding a fishing rod, squinting into the sun. "I did what you asked," I whispered. "I kept it safe." I don't know if the wind shifted or if I just breathed deeper, but something inside me settled. A few days later, I met my brother. We chose a diner halfway between our places. Neutral ground. He looked thinner, worn down in a way that had nothing to do with age. He stirred his coffee 3 times before speaking. I didn't know. Not everything. She kept things from me too. I watched him. Listened. I didn't make it easy, but I didn't shut him out either. I thought you just wanted the house, he said. But now, seeing all that, we talked about our childhood, about Dad, about the tire swing we used to fight over, and the time we both hid in the attic during a thunderstorm. Not a full reconciliation, but something cracked open. He said sorry, not perfectly, but honestly. You married her, I finally said, but you're still my brother. He nodded. That's all he could give. That's all I needed, for now. When I walked back into the house, it felt quieter than I remembered. Not empty, just open. I slipped off my shoes, walked barefoot on the hardwood. I started cleaning, wiping away the layers, not just dust, but tension. Rearranged furniture, donated what didn't feel like mine, framed a photo of Dad, and set it in the hallway. Outside, I planted tulips, Mom's favorite. The neighbors passed by and waved. One brought over a pie, another stopped to chat. Nobody looked through me anymore. I wasn't trying to reclaim what had been taken. I was rebuilding what had been mine all along. This house was never just walls. It was always about worth. One quiet evening, I sat on the porch with a mug of coffee, watching the sky tint orange. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but answered. A man's voice, gentle but unfamiliar. I knew your father. There's something he asked me to give you. I froze. My hand tightened around the cup. Could there be more?